Okay, welcome back. We are the TongLen practice group. I think this is our class 4, is that right? And it is November 17th, 2025. We'll do our usual opening prayers and then go into the TongLen meditation, and then we'll have the class part after this time. So let's again use a person that we are very fond of, right? Someone we love, so that it's easy to feel this wish to take away their distress. Okay, so, but first, let's do our opening prayers in the usual way. So let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way a way through which they could go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention strong, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach me that. Show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So settle your body into meditation posture. Get your sits bones solid, pushing down in the chair. Feel that inner energy rising, raising your sternum, raising your crown. Turn and scan down your outer body, inviting everything to relax. scalp and face, neck, shoulders, arms, upper torso, lower torso, hips, thighs, calves, feet. Then turn your mind and come back up. Coming to rest with your focus at your nostrils, watching the sensation of the air go out and come back in. Using that breath as your object to focus, turn on your clarity, and turn on intensity. Now intentionally shift your object of focus from breath to that precious holy being. Think of what they have taught you about the marriage of karma and emptiness, and how making our behavior choices based upon that to the best of our ability is our protection, our refuge. Grow your wish that every existing being could know that secret as well. Recognize that this precious holy being is here for us to help us learn to live according to that wisdom. We know that they do so and had to learn to do so in order to become this wise, exquisite, loving, compassionate being who knows what we need. And so think of just one of their good qualities that you admire and aspire to grow within yourself. Tell them about it. Make a mental prostration. Feel your gratitude to them. And so we want to make them an offering. And we use this offering also to request of them to grant us more insight, more teaching. See how happy they are with you. And we feel so safe with them that we want to clear our heart of some negativity. And so think of some thought or word or deed that's happened recently that when it grows and ripens will be unpleasant. Tell them about it. Reassert your refuge understanding. Feel your regret. Give yourself an antidote power and a power of restraint. We'll sit 2 minutes to give us time. Mhm. Now fill that space with rejoicing. Think of some kindness you saw someone do recently. Tell them about that. Tell them of another kindness you did. Tell them something good about somebody you don't particularly care for. And again, see how happy that being is with you. Ask them to please stay close to you. Ask them to help you see them helping you, even in the form of other beings, beings that don't look like them. Ask them to continue to bring you teachings. So that we can continue to help others. And then dedicate just what we've done so far to gaining deeper insight into your TongLen practice, opening your heart to bodhicitta, both kinds. Then you can turn your mind back to your body to see if it needs to shift or wiggle. Then you settle it back in. Bring your attention to your breath again to set that focus, clarity, intensity. And we'll begin our TongLen, actually just still doing Len part. So now think of the person that you really care for who's having some kind of problem. Think of where they probably are right now. And imagine that you are there with them in an invisible form. Get the sense of the space they are in. And focus in on them clearly. You are aware of the problem that they are having. You know something about it. Identify the surface problem and try to look a little deeper. What might be the mental afflictions underneath? What might be the reactions they are feeling compelled to do? We can't know exactly, of course, but our own past experiences can help us understand. And recognize also that for them to be experiencing this particular incidence of this distress, they probably have more seeds for more of it. And so feel your wish that they be free of this distress, free of the seeds for more of it, free of the misunderstanding that underlies it all. And make your determination to do this TongLen practice to try to help them. And so, with this strong motivation, as you focus on their distress and feel your compassion, your concentration makes all of that distress gather into the middle of their heart. See it like black, gooey, yucky stuff all around inside their body. And because of your concentration, it turns and migrates towards the center of their chest, all of it, coming together into a little black ball. When you have it gathered, again, identify that little black ball of goo. The distress of the situation, the mental afflictions, the feelings underneath it, the kind of worldly action that they're probably going to propel, and all the seeds for more of all of that. And then decide, I'm going to take this from them. And with that, you turn your attention to your out breath. Sending it forth slowly. Each breath, it goes a little further towards them. Until it gets close enough that their inhale helps draw it in. Your exhale, sending it, goes in their nostrils, down into their chest, hooking into that little black ball of their distress. When you have it nicely hooked, say again, great, now I can take it from them. And shift your focus to your inhales. And each inhale draws that black ball of goo up their chest. Up through their throat, out their nose. Slowly, slowly drawing it towards yourself. Bringing it to rest, hovering beneath your nostrils. Identify it again. And then recall, if I can see this happening in my world, I have seeds for it. And so leave that ball hovering and look into our own chest where we see that tiny little flame of our own misunderstanding ourselves and our world and the selfishness that arises from it. Recognize this tiny little flame of our ignorance and selfishness is, in fact, underneath all the suffering that we can experience, all the suffering that we can see. And so we take that personal responsibility to use our loved ones' pain to destroy our own selfishness and misunderstanding. So just listen first. I'll review. To set up, you take a nice, long, slow, easy exhale. And on the inhale, you draw that black ball in your own nostrils, down your throat, slow motion down your chest, so that you can watch and see the very moment that the edge of the black ball touches the tip of the flame. And when they do, they instantly flash into a brilliant light, blink out, a wisp of smoke that disappears, and you have that absence. And then you go back to breathing normally as you rest in that absence. So now go back to knowing the black ball and what it is. And when you're ready, start your sequence. Rest in that absence, that freedom as best you can. Then your mind stirs and let yourself become aware of that other person, your loved ones, and see how relieved they are. They feel happy, they feel confident. They know they can deal with this circumstance in a different way if the circumstance is even still happening. It feels so good to see them feel good. and decide to leave your person, bring your invisible you back to this you in your room. Feel that it feels nice to have tried to help them in that way. And think to yourself, if it's true that my whole world is driven by the seeds of my own mind, then may the seeds I have just planted bring about the result of the end of that other's pain forever someday. And know that it will come about. And so become more keenly aware of yourself in your room. And when you're ready, open your eyes, take a stretch. So it takes longer for me to describe this practice than it does for you to do it, right? But the few pieces that when you're doing it yourself that you don't want to miss is the clear identification of the distress the person's having, that we're perceiving they're having. And then looking under that to identify the emotions they're probably feeling from it, from which that are coloring their reaction to the whole situation. You want to clearly identify all of that. Of course, we don't know, right? The better we know our person, the more closely our idea will match, perhaps. But we can TongLen people, beings, we don't have any clue what they feel like just based on our own personal experience, our own, anticipation. If I were in that boat, how would I feel? So TongLen still works. Even if we don't exactly get it right from their side. I was tonglening your fear. And then, I mean, not that you're ever going to talk to them about it necessarily, but if you did, and you might say, well, I was tonglening your fear. And they said, well, really, I was just angry. And it's not like our tonglen failed because we didn't get the exact match. Okay. Mm. Then for me, I get it identified. And then by the time I've got it pulled out and over here, it's all gotten kind of vague. So I like to stop and re-identify once it's here. And then the second piece not to forget is when we look at the flame inside our heart, really clearly identify that. That flame represents my ignorance. But ignorance is such a big word. Make sure we understand what we mean by my ignorance, like my belief that there's a me and there's an outer world that comes at me. And that I believe the outer world has its qualities in it, me, right? We want to really identify, don't stop and think it all through. But maybe ignorance isn't the word that triggers it for you. Find some word that you know when you use it, what you mean is this underlying mistake that I make in every moment of my experience. You know, I use the word mistake, this big mistake. And then out of that misunderstanding of me comes me first, right? Must protect me. And from that colors everything I decide to do to make me happy and avoid me suffering. We will not ever get rid of our me. What we are getting rid of is our misunderstanding of the nature of me, right? From a me that everything's happening to simply the me side of everything that's happening. There will always be a subject side, your subject side, my subject side. We're not wishing to destroy that. We can't. What we're wanting to destroy is the misunderstanding that the me is something in and of itself, independent of being part of every seed ripening. Right? When we understand that every seed ever planted, every seed that ever will be planted, will always have a subject, an object, and an interaction between those three spheres. We can't ever destroy our subject side. But when our subject side believes it's a me that exists independent of that process, that me begets selfishness, and selfishness begets unkindness to get what we want and avoid what we don't want. And in our misunderstanding of me, we misunderstand everybody else, and we experience them as experiencing themselves in the same way, having their own me that needs to protect itself and right get happiness and avoid suffering. And there lies all the conflict. So that little flame, we want to identify it as well and recognize that because of this flame of me, self-existent me, and my selfishness, I'm actually the one who's making me see them distressed in that way. Yes, they have their own seeds. And my seeds make me see them with those seeds. So I can help them by destroying my seeds that cause me to see them in pain. So when we TongLen, the TongLen's not doing anything. What we're doing is the seeds we're planting by TongLening is changing our own heart that will change what we see in them. That's how it works. That's how anything works, by way of our own seeds. The difficulty is that delay. As with any seed, you don't plant a seed and get the result at the same time, and you don't plant a seed and get a result in the very next moment. It takes time. How much time? It depends on so many factors. Okay? Can I do my TongLen in a way that increases the power of it so that it can ripen faster? Yes, we'll talk about it. But does it mean that our TongLen did not work if the person we are TongLening, I don't know, we're trying to TongLen their high blood pressure, and maybe their high blood pressure in fact does go down, but then they get killed in a car crash. Like, did our TongLen work or not work? Right? If we TongLen them for their anger and they just still keep meeting angry people, did our TongLen not work? Like, how can we ever judge it if we don't know how long it'll take for the seeds to ripen? So when we are doing our TongLen, we're not doing it so much to get the results. Like, I'm listening to myself and it's like, wait, no, but I am doing it for the result. But if we judge our practice by way of the result, right, we will find ourselves lacking. And then we'll find the practice lacking, right? And then we'll drop away from it. And it's true not just with TongLen, all of the practices that we learn, right? And Geshe-la teaches the 4 steps. Clearly identify what you want, right? Find somebody who wants the same thing, meet with them, rejoice, and you can get your seeds to shift in 2 weeks. And, he teaches that, and then he teaches it to somebody else and somebody else. And then we come along and we pick up somebody who's learned that 3 years ago, and they say, I'm doing my 4 steps and it hasn't worked yet. And it's like, no, it hasn't not worked. It's that it just hasn't given you the results yet, or the results you are expecting means you're not able to see the results that you're getting, right? You decide, I want a tall blonde boy, and the one that shows up in your life is short with black hair, and you're falling in love with him, but you don't let yourself do it because he's supposed to be blonde, right? We're taking our expectation and it's blocking our ability to see our result. So if we are result oriented in our TongLen, we're limiting ourselves. That rather we use TongLen to plant our seeds differently, and then just let them do what seeds do, right? Which is be influenced by all the other seeds, influenced by the sunshine and the water. And then when they sprout, it's like, oh, look, oh, look. Okay. Maybe it's not until we've completely forgotten that we even made those seeds. Mm. I don't know about you, but I know my tendency through life has always been result oriented. I want to make this happen. I want to make that happen. And repeated theme in my life was like I could get this result and this result and this result, but I was really going for that one. And that one I would always not quite get. So it left me disappointed or feeling betrayed. So can we shift our focus to the pleasure of the planting based on, right, the 4 steps, based on what we want to see in our world, plant it and go on. Plant it and go on. TongLen practice is a beautiful way to do that. Okay. We're planting it, moving on. Yes, Frank.
Is the result orientation something like attachment? So you are attached to something when you are result orientated, right?
Right, right. So
Mm.
the attachment itself is not the taint. It's the ignorant attachment, believing that that thing we are attached to will be the source of my happiness. Right? When we know it's not the source of my happiness, but rather it's a source of a tool that I can use to help somebody, then be attached to it in the sense of, I'm going to keep it and protect it because I use it for somebody else. That's not ignorant attachment. Right? Yeah, good. In the West, they have that legend, somebody called Johnny Appleseed. He was in the Appalachians and he had a bag full of apple seeds and he would go into an area and he would just plant these apple seeds and in a valley and he'd go away. He wouldn't stay to tend them and watch them grow. He'd just plant the seed and walk away. And he did that like his whole lifetime. And some of those seeds grew and they grew into apple trees and they made apples. And out there, right, in the wilds of the Appalachian valleys, there are wild apple trees, which usually are cultivated and they're there available for people to pick. So it's kind of, I like that imagery. It's like in my Buddhist practice, right? My spiritual practice. I want to be Johnny Appleseed, right? Instead of result driven. It just feels so much nicer. And TongLen is this beautiful, sweet practice that we can be planting seeds, right, in our own minds for people's freedom from distress. And in the process of doing that, we are destroying the seeds in our own heart, our own mind, that make us see that distress in other people. So why not just think about my own seeds and just do 4 powers, 4 powers, 4 powers? Why go out and be amongst other people at all? It's like, how do we know that we have mental afflictions? When we're out amongst other people, right? When we're all by ourselves, we still know we have mental afflictions when we're all by ourselves after 3 years of all by myself. We still know, but that it's easy to get in the space where they've slowed down, right? And you even might imagine, oh my gosh, right? I'm getting free of that one. And then you go out and you be amongst people and, oh, I guess I'm not free of that one after all, because there it comes up, right? So other beings, whether they're human people or other kinds of people, our interaction with them is the arena within which we plant our seeds. We need them, right? We want them. Chris, I'm looking at your chat. It went by. Yeah, so Chris said, is that what's meant by selfless service, where you're not attached to the result of your good planning? I think that's brilliant. Yes. Yeah, we're doing the best that we can, right? For the highest and the best of all concerned, which includes our me. We're allowed to have good results. We will get good results. We won't be able to help getting good results. And it'll be, wow, great. And then we'll share, we'll offer those good results. And we also get to the place where when we're still getting bad results, unpleasant experiences, our awareness can be such, it's like, oh, just burning it off, opportunity to act differently than my flame of ignorance wants to make me act. In which case, those unpleasant experiences, although they are still unpleasant, we don't actually perceive them as things to resist or things to dislike, right? We don't actually have to suffer from unpleasant circumstances, right? There's that saying, pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is optional. And probably we've all had the experience of, I don't know, I was injured one time. I broke my clavicle and I had just learned this method of tapping for emergencies. And so I was tapping and that clavicle did not hurt. My shoulder wouldn't work. I knew there was something seriously wrong. I didn't know what it was yet. But I was in the emergency room like the whole time between the accident and the getting to the emergency room. It's probably 2 hours. I'm tapping, waiting for this thing to swell up and start to really hurt. And it just didn't. And I'm doing the intake in the ER, right? I'm doing this and I'm telling my story. And the nurse finally says, why are you tapping on your chest? And I said, well, because blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I have no pain. She just looked at me like, mm. But really, I went through that whole broken clavicle with almost no pain, until it healed and then I had to move my shoulder and then out. But the point is, right, we can have something awful happen and our attitude can be, all right, right? I'll use this too. Pleasant things, I use them to offer, to share and offer. Unpleasant things, I use them to suck them out of the world. May my migraine be the last migraine in anybody everywhere, anywhere. And it's like, come on, that's not possible. But it is possible, isn't it? Maybe mine will be the last one for everybody because my seeds shift. And then migraines disappear in the human world. There have been diseases that disappeared. Can't think of one right now, but there have been. You just don't see them anymore. And we say, yeah, yeah, because they treated it and the last person. No, because our seeds changed. Right? Okay. So why did I go off on all of that? Let's take our break. Okay, we're back. So last class, we received the oral transmission of that series of verses from the Lama Chupa prayer, offering to the lamas. It's in your reading, right? So that you had it. Okay. So those verses are a, a brief, well, what they're alluding to are a combination of the 7-step cause and effect method for growing our bodhicitta and the exchanging self and others. And when he wraps it all up, he 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 suggests that we use TongLen practice as the tool for acting from this new level of awareness that we're trying to grow. So it's in the section of asking for the blessings to reach our realizations of the Lamrim, moving ourselves towards our path to freedom and beyond. And it's in this section of shifting from our wish to achieve nirvana, right? Freedom for ourselves alone, and recognizing that, well, if I can do that for me, everybody can do it, right? Shifting our renunciation onto others. And so the the first step in that 7-step cause and effect method, as we've learned or will learn, is to grow a sense of equanimity, meaning that we care for every existing being in the same way. Not, I want this one to get happy, but I don't care about that one. And it's a long story, not for now. And the next step in 7-step cause and effect is to then decide, I'm going to recognize that every being that I interact with, that I can perceive, is a being who in the past was my mother. They are now someone who was my mother in the past. So this person now, when we were in that relationship, as my mother, they did me a great, great goodness. They gave me a lifetime, whether it was a lifetime as a cockroach or, a prince of the world. Mothers are powerful karmic objects because they give us life. And for human mothers and some animal mothers, they also hang around to help us survive, at great sacrifice. So the idea of recognizing this being is my mother from before, the idea is that, oh, when she was my mother, I loved her very much and she helped me very much. And so I I want to repay her for her kindness, even if now in this life it's like she's gone crazy and she's really mean to me. It's like, no, no, right? We're just trying to grow an ability to interact with other beings on this level of wanting to take care of them because we want to repay them. But deeper down, I had said earlier, might there be ways that we could make our TongLen seed planting more powerful so the seeds can ripen faster so that the other person can benefit? So I can see the other person benefit. Like, although hot on the heels of that, I said, don't worry about the result. So you can hold me to that. But there are tricks of the trade to to plant our seeds in such a way that they will ripen sooner. And we want that not so much for us, but for the others in our world. Like, wouldn't we like to be able to plant the seeds for the end of war so powerfully that they could ripen within my lifetime, all war would cease? Yeah, that'd be great. So, one of the ways to increase the power of our seed planting is to plant our seeds in relation to someone who is a powerful karmic object. So, this see all beings as my mother is a sneaky method for us to see the being we are interacting with as a powerful karmic object, right? Those are in Diamond Way. See where that goes. So double piece is not just, oh, I want to repay her because this being whose suffering was my mother before, and it's this same mind stream. I want to repay her now. And I'm going to repay her by TongLening. I'm going to repay her by, I don't know, bringing her flowers too. But really, the way I really repay all my mothers is to stop their suffering. But wait, if I can't take their karma, how can I stop their suffering? But wait, the suffering I see in them isn't their karma, it's my karma. The suffering they see in them, I don't even know, do I? Does it mean they don't have it? No. Right. I don't know. So if I see suffering in them, I want to try to help them. And everything I try, worldly wise, actually falls short. Right? Maybe I do help the person's blood pressure goes down, but then they get in a car accident. That, right? What we do worldly ways can't work. But wait, TongLen doesn't work either. Because we can't lower somebody's blood pressure by sucking imaginary black goo out of them. But the seeds that we plant by wanting to take their blood pressure problem away does, sooner or later, stop their suffering. It may not ever lower their blood pressure, but we will see them not suffering from it. It's a little tricky. TongLen works by way of the seeds it plants because of our willingness to take the pain. So wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. So in this series of verses, he says, recognize all beings as my mother, recognize how kind they were. And so grow my compassion for them and my love for them, like the love of a mother for a child in pain. So we're thinking of them as my mother from before, and we're thinking of them as my child now. And my child, them, is suffering so terribly from situations that do seem awful, but underneath, really, it's going to be okay, right? Like the little kid falls off the bike, scrapes their knee. They think it's the end of the world. You clean it up, you kiss the boo-boo, and they're going to be fine, right? Parent knows you're okay. You're going to be fine. It's all right. Your love, your compassion, right? you know it's going to pass. Same for any situation when we are in the karma emptiness understanding mode. It doesn't lessen our compassion, lessen our love. It makes it stronger, actually, right? Because we can be there for them from this strength of being able to support them through it, like knowing better what's happening, okay, with the seed ripening. He reminds us to develop joy in the happiness of others. Right? A bodhisattva is in the happiness making business. And then our human tendency is when we see somebody get something that makes them happy or would make us happy that we're not getting, we get jealous. No, and even when we go, wow, good for you, there's a part of us that's going, right? Why you, not me? So subtle, but it colors, right? Our own mind is always there, always aware of what's arising within it. So to genuinely take joy in the happiness of others, like parent when their child succeeds, right? You who are parents, you know what that feels like. Your joy for them is genuine because they are your child, as opposed to your colleague at work. Well, what if, right, you convinced yourself that this colleague at work, you know, some lifetime they were my child. Can I relate to them in that same way now and be really happy with their success? All these ways. Okay. So to plant seeds with our children as karmic objects, it's just not as powerful a karmic seed, right? Of course, they are more powerful karmic seeds than a rabbit, but not as powerful as mother. But then I just said every being is your mother from before, right? So my mind has to toggle. Are they parent or are they child? But technically, right, they're both because everybody's been everything for everybody in infinite time. So he goes on in that verse and says, look, nobody wants the slightest kind of suffering. None of us feel like we have enough happiness. So come on, cut those other people some slack. Cut yourself some slack. What little happiness arises in our world, let's be happy for it. With all the suffering that goes on in the world, let's be sad about it, right? Let's have compassion because it's all driven by that big mistake of thinking, right? We have some kind of nature in us that the world is happening at, as opposed to recognizing this subject side is the creator of its entire experience. So let's create something nice for everybody. Yeah. So he goes on to say, Lama, bless me to destroy this chronic disease of taking care of myself. So that's what this flame is, this chronic disease of belief in me as a separate thing than my projections, my experiences, and that me that needs to get what it wants and avoid what it doesn't want in it, regardless of what I have to do to get it. Right? So wisdom you is still going to act in ways to bring pleasure to oneself and avoid displeasure. But wisdom you will not be willing to harm somebody else or to harm oneself in order to get the pleasure or avoid the displeasure. Right? It's what we do in response to our experience that reveals our wisdom or our ignorance. That verse says, bless me to destroy the mighty devil of my tendency to watch out only for myself. Only for myself. Not to watch out for myself, because we have to, but only for myself is what our flame of misunderstanding me does. Even when we are exceptionally kind people, when we're still misunderstanding our true nature and others' true nature, we cannot act in a way that does not include some kind of self-protection or self-gain that colors our choice of behavior. Next, he points out that cherishing all our mother beings and wishing for their happiness is actually the door to all of our good qualities. So any goodness you see in yourself, any goodness you see in your world is ripening results of kindnesses that we've done in the past. All of them. Any distress that we see in our world is ripening results of ways in which we have caused that distress in others before. So he has this beautiful verse where the conclusion of it is, bless me to finally grasp the difference between how a 2-year-old behaves in their world and how a Buddha behaves in their world, right? A 2-year-old is supposed to be me, 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 right? Completely self-absorbed. Like they're just learning how to be a independent self, aren't they? They find like they're learning how to separate from mom and be independent. And so every time mom says anything, they go, no, right? And it's all about me as the little kid. I'm not saying derogatorily at all, but that's just what it is. And the verse says, like, may I finally grasp the difference, the problems that come from acting as infants do, thinking only of themselves, and the good that comes from acting as the lords of the able do, thinking only of what others need. Right? So our Buddha perception of me won't be me in a world of others. Our Buddha perception will be, I don't know, this is me, not scripture. Our Buddha perception will be we, like all, or us. And then that means what is still perceived as other by Buddha, the happiness of that other is an extension of Buddha's subject side happiness. There's not my happiness, your happiness, in you, your Buddha, you. And there's like the happiness of my hand and the happiness of this hand and the happiness, right? When you're identifying you as Buddha, you. So this idea of exchanging self and others is really meaning expanding yourself to include others, is planting seeds for this new awareness of being able to have a self and an other, but not as these independent entities that are interacting, but rather as, right, the ripening, ripening, happening, the happening, happening, happening. And then, right, all of you is happiness, sharing happiness, sharing happiness, sharing happiness, right, is where we're trying to go. So he next points out that cherishing ourselves is the door to every trouble there is. Cherishing our mothers is the foundation of every quality we could have. So as we believe that the more I work on myself, the more I take care of myself, the more content and happy I will be, the less content and happy we will be in the future because we're going about getting the happiness we want in the wrong way. So it cannot work. It may seem to work, but in the end, right, it cannot work because we are willing to be somehow unkind, unthoughtful to another to take care of our own self first. Again, it does not mean that we stop taking care of ourselves. But what we do to take care of ourselves will not include any situation in which we will do an unkindness towards others to get what we want. And it's like, how could an unkindness ever bring us what we want? But it seems like it does. You tell the little white lie, and the other person rewards you for it. But it wasn't the lie that got you the reward. It was some past generosity that got the reward. And telling the lie will result in some time in which someone doesn't believe you, whether you're telling the truth or not. Right? So it's so hard to connect that dot when we can't see the actual result of the deed that we've done. We think we see it because we think that the thing that happens next is the result of what we just did. Right? That's like so hard to get off that automatic pilot. Right? I put my hand on the doorknob, I turn it, I pull, and the door opens. Of course, what I did in the moment happened, what came next. But technically not. So difficult. So he goes on in this verse to say, bless me then that this deep practice of exchanging others for myself might become the very heart of my daily path. Caring for others with the same tenacity that I care for myself, meaning attend to my own needs. Right? When I have to go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. When I'm thirsty, I drink something. Right? We attend to our own needs so effortlessly, and our own needs color everything first, even in the most kind, selfless people. Right? We still are misunderstanding if that kind, selfless person is still ordinary human, and I don't know. So finally, we get to this verse that's called the TongLen mantra. It's long for a mantra. It's verse 89 that says, and so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of kindness. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, every one of them, my mother, come and ripen upon myself, ripen upon me now. And let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. When you hear that verse, like honestly, what does your heart do? And what does your head do? Yeah, Kristen, exactly. I admit, like, TongLen's my favorite practice, and I still hear this verse, and there's a part of me that goes, "Ugh." So when they first talk about this verse, they say, look, when we're learning to care about others, does love come first or does compassion come first? If somebody's suffering, love is, I want your happiness. I want to give you happiness. Compassion is, I want to take away your suffering. At this level, love is, I want your happiness and I'm willing to do something to try to help you get it. Compassion is, I want the end of your suffering and I'm willing to try to do something to help your suffering end. What comes first? If you try to give happiness to somebody who's in terrible pain, how effective is our giving them happiness going to be? Not very, right? If your child has that 104 fever, you don't go buy them a new toy. Here, honey, look, this will help you feel better. They'll probably throw it at you. You give them some medicine, right? You put them in a lukewarm tub. You bring their fever down. You help them feel better. And then you give them something that would help them be happy. But don't we have to care enough about them to care that they're even suffering? And isn't that love, right? To to care enough to pay attention, to see that they're not as happy as we'd like them to be. Hey, it seems like love does come first in our emotion, but then in our action, compassion would come first before we act on our love. So it is true that we're acting on our love when we are willing to pay close enough attention to someone to be aware of the pain that they're having. Because most of the time, we're trained to block it out because it's too much. Others, the suffering that we see as you walk down the street is overwhelming if you let it all in, right? You would stop at the first homeless person and try to figure out just exactly why they're homeless and, where could I find you help and what can I, right? You'd never get to the grocery store because then you finish with that person and then there'd be the stray dog, right? And then there'd be, and then you look at the news, like it would be overwhelming. to go through our world with this open heart, wouldn't it? Right? Ordinary human nature says yes, overwhelm. But that's what we're trying to work with, is that limitation. Mm. And the beauty of TongLen practice is even as we're zipping by all those situations in our car, we can decide, I'm going to care enough to notice. And then I'm physically limited in what I can do for them, but I can always TongLen. How does it help them for me to TongLen? Does it help them for me to TongLen?
If I become a Buddha because of me TongLening, then I can help them.
Exactly. That seems like too far away, doesn't it? Say no.
It speeds up the process.
It speeds up the process. Because how often do we have the opportunity to do that? Moment by moment by moment, even if we're all by ourselves, right? Just look at the news and TongLen. Yeah. It's such an exquisite practice. So, but the root we get is when we say, may all the evil deeds and obstacles, all the pain that ever comes to anybody, may it ripen on me now. All of it, right now. And the commentaries soften it. They say, look, no matter how much you wish for somebody else's pain to come off of them and land on you, it is impossible. We can't take someone's karma. They can't give us karma. Buddhas can't do it. So why do we think that our wish for taking someone's pain can actually give me their pain? It can't, right? It's supposed to reassure us so that when we say, may all the evil deeds land on me, we go, but I know it can't, so I'm safe. But that waters down what we're trying to do, doesn't it? I mean, it's useful if it helps us go ahead and say the words and try to suck it in. But we want to understand a little deeper so that we're not staying at that surface level. So, if we see someone with some kind of distress, and we have the extraordinary thought of, man, they're suffering. I wish I could take it from them. Could we ever get a bad result from the karmic seed of that thought? No, because it's such an extraordinary kindness thought. Man, I wish I could take that suffering away. I'll pretend that I can. And I'll use it to destroy my misunderstanding that makes me see it in the first place. And I'll imagine that I could give them everything they could possibly want right up to their total enlightenment. Can that series of thoughts ever bring you a bad result, an unpleasant result? No. because it's such a good seed, a good series of seeds, 64 per instant. So if we're planting that many seeds with our TongLen, we actually don't necessarily want our TongLen to go by fast. Like when we're driving past the homeless guy, that's all the time we've got. But when we're doing it, at home, at our own leisure, you take all that time to get the breath to go out and hook into their goo, because every instant is 64 seeds planting of my wish that I'm going to take their pain from them by doing this. Right? Why not spend 20 minutes at it? Because of all the seeds we're planting towards powerful karmic object. They're my mother, I'm doing it. Right? All these different ways that we are adding to the power of the seeds that we're planting. We're doing it in a stream over and over again towards high objects, highly motivated. It's all built in to this extraordinary practice. So by saying the words, may all the evil deeds and obstacles ripen upon me now, that is such a goodness that even if it happens, you won't suffer from it. And it's like, right? If something we used to call a bad thing ripens on us, but now we use it for something good, we don't suffer from it, is it a bad thing? Yeah, no, right? It's so extraordinary. So stay at the level of, I'm going to wish to take all their pain, but I know their pain can't come on me because I can't take their karma, if that helps. But try to go deeper. The wish to take their bad deeds is such a greatness, right? That it's only going to result in goodness. What will that goodness entail eventually? Seeing that other as a happy being, right? Free of their suffering. Might they still not have enough money? Yes, maybe. But if they're free of their suffering from not enough money, isn't that what we really were wanting for them? Freedom from their suffering? Good. How am I doing here? He goes on after a couple of verses. Verse 93, he finally says, bless me to use the mystic machine of giving and taking, riding on the breath, love and compassion, and the willingness to free all beings myself, to practice that one thought, the wish for enlightenment, to free every living being from this vast sea of suffering. So when we are doing TongLen, we are practicing our wish for enlightenment. We are wanting to take that pain and suffering from the other. We are wanting to destroy the ignorance that causes it. And we are wanting to give them all kinds of happiness. The mystic machine is referring to the highest yoga tantra, highest practices called completion stage, where we are using the goodness we've created in our creation stage to reach with to work with our subtle body to transform our perception of our me and my world from ordinary to Buddha. And we can think of this because of the empty nature of our me and my body. We can think of it as being made of these very subtle channels of vibration that are called channels, winds, and drops of consciousness. And we are taught a particular remap of this, to think of it in a different way, in which it's made of these tubes of energetic vibrations that, when they twist around the central tube, make a constriction within it that prevents the winds flowing in that central tube. When the winds flow in the central tube, they are not flowing in the outside tubes. And when they flow in the outside tubes, that movement moves the mind in such a way that we are forced to perceive ourselves and our outer world as being independent things, especially independent of our seed ripenings of past behavior. When that movement is happening in that central channel, we no longer have this misperception of self-existent subject-object. We are experiencing subject-object accurately, and we can gather those winds and do something with it that helps push our awareness into a direct experience that in Sutra is called the direct perception of emptiness. But when we use this method to get there, it's called a direct perception of the clear light. Same experience, different outcome. So by using the gross breath in TongLen, the gross breath has a resonance with the movement in these inner channels. For instance, when we get in great fear, we tend to hold our breath first, and then we pant real fast. When we're angry, right, our breath gets shorter. Our emotions are affected by our breath, and our emotions affect our breath. And in the same way, these subtle movements within our channels are reflections of our state of mind. So when we are intentionally slowing and lengthening our breath, it's helping to slow and lengthen, straighten these channels that allows the breath, the subtle wind, to move less chaotically. That is going to eventually help us learn to move those winds intentionally. Winds are moved by mind, and mind is moved by winds. Happens together. So TongLen practice, by using our breath to carry out this task of taking pain and giving happiness, we are already setting up a harmonic resonance in our subtle body to prepare us to use it in specific ways in some future. So part of TongLen seed planting that happens whether we are aware of it or not, but happens better when we are aware of it, is that it's preparing us for the methods that we will use someday to transform these things from the perception of made of flesh and blood to the perception of made of love, compassion, and wisdom. Right? So TongLen is a particular practice that does that for us right from the get-go. Okay? We learn TongLen early on in our Mahayana practice. We maybe have never even heard of Diamond Way, let alone Diamond Way subtle body work. And we're already planting the seeds for it to happen. So hooray for TongLen. All right, let me move this. So I guess I went back then to that question, what comes first, the giving or taking? And we already said that we have to love enough, which is the giving, to care about their suffering, which begets the taking. And we need to take the suffering before we can give the happiness. So love comes first in emotion, taking compassion comes first in action. And in TongLen, we say we take the suffering first away so that they are more available to receive the happiness based on the TongLen being the action. But someone again says, yeah, but if you love them first, surely you would give them something before you take away their pain. And Pabonka Rinpoche, he points out that when you do TongLen on a single breath, when you're zipping by the homeless guy, right? He says, when you do TongLen that way, always give them happiness and then take their suffering. And it doesn't make sense. But he says the reason is that because of this thing about TongLen and the resonance with the highest practices, in the highest practices, we're learning to always end on the inhale for a significant reason. So when we do TongLen in one breath, you want to end on the inhale. So you give first and take second. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense, it will still work. But when we are taking the extended TongLen, your love tells you to do it. And then the first thing you do is spend the time, right, sending your wish into them to take their pain away. Destroy our suffering, our misunderstanding, our ignorance, our selfishness, and then take the time, right, to give them. Okay. So true to the Buddhist path, right? Neither is right and neither is wrong. Okay. Because of karma and emptiness. So remember that person we TongLened and that we set up at the beginning of class. We did our class for them. We have planted really, really good seeds. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. And thank you for the extra 4 minutes. Please forgive me. Yes,
Do you
Sylvia.
still have a minute for question?
I do. So anyone who wishes to stay for questions, feel free. If you need to go, feel free. Okay. Yes, Sylvia.
Um, so they asked me to do the prayers for the people on Wednesday, which I said yes. And I was wondering what you would advise. Should I do the selfish flame or should I do the diamond? I don't know who will be there with me.
Yeah.
What did you do? You did those, did you? The prayers for the people?
I did do prayers for the people. I didn't do TongLen.
Oh, you didn't?
Did I? I don't remember what I did. I'm so sorry. You know, the flame takes a little more explanation than the rose with the diamond. I personally prefer the flame
Mhm,
because I want to see that stuff destroyed, right?
mhm.
I want to see myself using my ignorance to destroy itself. Uh, but Geshe-la uses the diamond in the rose because people are attracted to that. And it helps, it softens the idea of taking somebody else's pain. So probably if you're going to have an audience that you don't think is quite so highly trained, use the rose and the diamond.
Great, I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have another question. If
Okay.
no one else, I can wait.
Going once, going twice. Okay.
It's not closely related, but it is closely related, but not about TongLen. So I'm an organ donor as a bodhisattva. I want to use this body to to give everything I can. But I had a debate about it with a friend of mine, and she said, "Come on, in the moment of dying, I want to use that peace of mind to become a Buddha, and not someone having cut my body open."
Yeah.
Huh, I thought. What is your take on that?
Yeah, yeah. It is a conundrum because they have to keep the body alive to be able to have the organs fresh enough. And in our tradition, they say you haven't actually died until the liquids come out, which can take, up to a week after clinical death is declared. But in our world, we don't get to wait for that to happen either, right? So it's like, which is better? Ideal would be if you could go off by yourself and die and nobody will know and nobody will touch you. You'll be able to die right and be able to theoretically use the opportunity to reach the clear light. But how likely are you going to get to do that? So if it's between ordinary human dying and organ donation giving, I personally would choose let this body be useful. And how could that go wrong? Right? Let somebody else live better. It's gonna help, whether it helps in that moment or later. Then my guess we could learn practices to jump out of the body at the right moment, right, and leave it. So it's a great conundrum though, and something to think about.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes, Chris.
I I was remembering I think it was death meditation practice where you similarly visualize black gooey stuff and then it kind of like you visualize it um, going through your body and coming out the bottom and into the mouth of that scary guy on the
Yeah,
Wheel of
yeah.
Life. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
called
yeah.
TongLen too, or is that just a whole different thing?
Yeah,
Does that relate to? I mean, is that another way? If you can't visualize the flame,
yeah, yeah.
can you add and anything that doesn't burn up goes down and gets
Goes down and gobbles up by the Lord of Death.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
why not? That's part of a purification practice. That's the visualization in purification practice. We use it in Thousand Angels of Bliss. We use it in Vajrasattva. And so, yeah, I mean, if you have a relationship with that idea, that practice,
Just
you
a
could, you could
yeah.
You could suck in that black ball and send it down into the mouth of Yama as long as you pick up with it your own ignorance and negative seeds. Right?
Yeah.
You could do that. Yeah, thanks, Frank. Mm. Anything else? Great. There's Pia's little new dog.
Oh.
Cute.
The Austrian of the family.
Sweetie. What's her name? She didn't hear. Okay. Have a great week. I will see you Friday morning. Okay. Okay. I love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.